This is part 2 of the series, The Fundamentals of Becoming a Great Escrow Officer. If you missed us for part 1, go back and check out that video. We covered 2 topics: knowing your place as the escrow officer in the transaction and knowing your product. Some good details there. Take a peek at it. For number 2 today, for part 2 today, there's 2 more topics that we want to address, namely polishing your craft as the escrow officer, and then also dialing in your customer service, your particular brand or your style of customer service. This is a really important topic that I don't think gets addressed nearly enough when we're talking about title and escrow. So join us for this conversation. We hope you find some good benefit out of it. Number 3, polish your craft. So when I say polish your craft, I'm referring to the image and the persona that you put out into the marketplace, mainly in the view of your prospective clients. So for example, if you were to line up 100 different escrow officers out there and put a real estate agent in front of them, and they walk down the line, who are they going to feel confident about? Who are they going to feel comfortable sending one of their hard-earned transactions to, right? So polishing your craft has to do with what you bring to the table personally as the escrow officer sitting in that seat around the round table of other professionals of a transaction. You got to know how to build a good, strong relationship with real estate agents, lenders, builders, or whoever your producer of business is right now. You got to know how to carry yourself in your closings. And this just takes time and practice and experience. If I had to share some ideas in terms of tips and tricks, when you walk into that closing room, you've got about a solid 30 seconds to sell yourself and to convince that customer, I'm talking about the end consumer sitting across the table from you, that they can trust you, that you know what you're doing, and to calm them down and let them settle into the experience. You got 30 seconds to do that, and a good closer can do that by the way they carry themselves, by the way they speak, by the way they deliver information. How to manage deadlines. Deadlines are a huge part of what we do. I mean, the life of an escrow officer is pretty well run by deadline. Transactions are governed by a real estate purchase contract, which by its very nature has a settlement deadline amongst a few others in there that have to be met. If they don't met, it potentially puts somebody in default of a contract. We can't be the ones that walk somebody into default of a contract, right? So these are things that can provide some stress and anxiety in the life of an escrow officer, but it doesn't have to be that way as long as you have a good system and process to manage deadlines. However that might be, you can get really fancy and subscribe to apps or software that can help you run deadlines. CRMs can help you do that type of stuff, or you can keep a spreadsheet. Some people keep a handwritten note, a handwritten list on their desk. Honestly, it doesn't really matter. It just depends on what your personality is and what you're going to do best with. But figure out a system to where you can keep track of all the deadlines that you have to meet, not only in your transactions, but also in terms of your interactions with your customers and things that you have represented that you will do. Even right down to maybe scheduling a follow-up from a lunch appointment you had with somebody to try to build the next level of the relationship with that prospective client. But if you can learn how to manage your deadlines and stay on top of things that you say you will do, that's polishing your craft. Number 4, dial in your customer service. There's a few areas within customer service that I'm going to mention today, but like I've said before in other videos, customer service is a massive topic. It's not one that can be covered in any one single video. Honestly, it can go so many different ways. It just depends on which sector of customer service you might be talking about that day. But for the purposes of this video, in terms of how you dominate as an escrow officer, I'm going to offer 4 different aspects of customer service for you to focus on that will really, I think, be at the top of the list of learning how to dominate as an escrow officer. Number 1, first and foremost, is communication. At the end of the day, the value we bring to the table, the hardcore frontline value, is our ability to run a transaction, prepare it in time, prepare it correctly, close it on time, fund it correctly on time, record it on time, get it paid out on time. That's 90% of what we do in terms of the technical side of things. If you can't do that, you're not going to be in business very long. The companion component to being able to run that file efficiently and be deadline driven is your ability to communicate what you're doing the whole way through. And you have to step out of your shoes and put yourself in the shoes of your customer. Think about the real estate agent. Maybe it might have taken them 6 months to sell this house. They finally got a contract on it, worked hard to get that done. And now what do they have to do? They've got to turn it over to a title company to get it ready to close. In other words, it leaves their world, it leaves their control, and they've got to rely on somebody else to get this done. That's always going to be a difficult concept. They have to be able to trust that whoever they're handing that transaction to is going to handle it the way that they want it done, or at a bare minimum to a level that they're going to feel confident that it's getting done timely and correctly. You help them gain that confidence in you by the way you communicate proactively with them. Don't ever wait for them to have to call you to ask a question that you knew they were going to need to know in advance. Reach out to them in advance before they call you and ask that question. Reach out in advance and share the information before they have to call you and ask for it. This kind of goes along the lines with number 2 as well. Think ahead about what your customer is going to need from you. This is next level customer service. You've come across something in a file that's going to be of interest. Maybe it's something that's a little bit out of the ordinary. It's going to be of interest, and your real estate agent needs to know about this. Don't wait for them to read the commitment, stumble across it, wonder what it is, and have to reach out to you and ask for it. When you deliver that commitment, maybe give them a quick call and just run through it. Hey, you're going to see this on this commitment. Just a couple things about it. This is what you can expect. This is what this is. This is what this means, right? Maybe you see a recording on a commitment you know they're going to need a copy of. Maybe there's a condition, covenant restriction that they're going to need. Get it to them before they have to call you and ask for it. When you can preempt potential requests from your customers, you will start to build a reputation with them. You're thinking ahead. You're going to get them what they need before they have to ask for it. And that's going to really bring that level of peace and comfort within them to a very strong level, to the point where they'll get to a point where they feel like they can't do business with anybody else because they just don't know if they could trust anybody else like they trust you. You got to be really great in the closing room. We talked about this already. Being great in the closing room is just the price of admission, more or less. So work on polishing up your skills in the closing room. And then lastly on this topic, add value to your customer. In other words, do things that are going to ultimately help them close more deals. You have to get outside of the box when you think about this. What can I do as a licensed escrow officer within my industry here to help my agents find, sell, and close more business, right? Or my lenders find, write, and close more loans, or my builders find, build, and close more houses. What can I do to provide that? This has to do with a different mindset than what we typically see. Oftentimes we keep ourselves within a box. We know what we're allowed to do and what we're supposed to do, and we're just trying to make sure that we do the best job we can. When you can figure out how to position yourself in the mind of your customer, not as a vendor or a commodity, but as a peer to them, and even better yet, a mentor to them, that's when they start to make the decision within their own mind that they cannot run their business without you. You can figure out how to position yourself in their mind that way, it's game over. This comes from a very good friend of mine who wrote a book called The Upstream Model. His name's Justin Stoddard. He's got experience in our industry and he trains to this on a regular basis. And I'd highly recommend you grab that book and read it. But that whole notion that we exit the realm of vendor or commodity to where there's nothing that really differentiates us from any other escrow officer out there, other than we want to say we're the best at what we do. But isn't that what everybody says? When we can exit that realm and truly step into the realm in the mind of our customer as a true peer of theirs, like this is a person that is helping me develop my business and close more deals, then that's where your game starts to really change. And if you want to dominate an escrow, you've got to rise to the level of, at a bare minimum, as a peer with your producers of business. And ultimately, if you're at it long enough and you can do it well enough, you'll gain that recognition as a mentor to many. And once somebody's identified you as a mentor, there's going to be a long relationship that accompanies that association with you. So that's what I got for you. How to dominate as an escrow officer. Got to know your place. You got to know your product. You got to polish your craft, and you got to dial in your customer service. If you can get all that handled in the best way possible, that puts you at the front of the pack in terms of people that'll be considered as top escrow officers within the industry. Go crush it.